Allison, I don't know how much of that you were able to catch, but I know you caught a bit of it. Uh, any like immediate thoughts from those clips?
Well, I mean, I've been sort of banging on this drum for a long time around educational technology. That's keep saying that's the door I came in, and I remember back when my kid was in like middle elementary school years, like fourth, fifth grade. Um, First seeing the papers from Pearson talking about AI in education and thinking like, this is crazy. I mean, and that would have been maybe 12 years ago, and no one was talking about AI in education at the time. I was really sort of we're dealing with the tests, and they were doing sort of like custom testing. Like there would be variable questions. Not every kid got the same set of questions, and I was just thinking at the time like, this is crazy. Like you can't check it. You don't know what's going on. You can groom kids based on like certain kids will get certain kinds of information, and it's all being sold as personalized learning, but there's no, they have a quote unquote standard, but and the standards are just to sort of sort people in the future for gig work. And I was just really concerned about the technology back then, and again, all of it being sold as beneficial, right? We care about you. We want to know about you and give you your custom program. But the thing about the cybernetics is it's a feedback loop. And we're not picking, the kids aren't picking where they're going and all of these pathways. And you heard the guy say, or the woman say about Lowe's, right? Oh, well, we know we won't need that many cashiers, but we need plumbers, so we'll pay for that. And that essentially these big multinational companies are just steering everything. And so where is our agency? Like when they've already said, okay, so the new game is that you have to chase around every 4 or 5 years and get a new skill because we've decided to remake the economy in this direction. And maybe 4 or 5 years now, but maybe, in 4 or 5 years, it'll be every 18 months or every 6 months. And it's not human. Like we're living according to standards that are no longer, are totally disconnected from any sort of natural cycle or human intellectual capacity to process this amount of change. I mean, and they all say it like, oh, we can't imagine there's so much change, but we just have to do it, right? And we just have to do it. And we're the grown-ups in the room, right? And these grown-ups in the room are throwing stuff over, and the children, that's what I keep sort of saying, the children in the natural world, they can't agree to this. Like we should be fighting this idea of a future that everyone has to live in a gig economy on the ledger, on this pathway. And and it's hard because after all of these years, like the narrative just gets pulled in these other directions, right? Like let's talk about culture wars, right? Like let's talk about which books we're going to ban, or let's talk about like bathroom things, or let's talk about these other things. I'm like, guys, there's something much bigger going on, and it's lifelong learning on the ledger, right? You're not even going to get out of it. Like you get an associate's, you get a credential, you get a 4-year degree, you're not done. You're never going to be done. And guess what? There probably won't be any PhDs anymore because it'll all be AI. Like, what schools do you think are actually going to offer PhD programs in anything? Are there going to be any MFAs? No, it's all going to be technical education. And anyway, that's just my, it's so sad. And yeah, it's like a steamroller, and we're standing up pointing to it. And yet so many other narratives are being constructed around it that obscure what this thing is. It's life as a learning game as we perform our humanity for the stupid machine and call it education.
Yeah.
You know,
It's frustrating. If you guys do have questions for us, just go ahead and post them in there. Just put the word question real in caps so I can spot it if I'm looking over here. But yeah, you had sent me this video, this short video on clever badges. So I thought I would start out. It's just like a 1 minute video. So I thought I would just start by
so I've used this a couple times, but this is like one of the saddest videos, I think, because it speaks to what we're doing to the next generation, what we're allowing to have happen and be normalized. And even what passes for creativity is here's a sheet of stickers. Which sticker do you want to decorate your badge with? And these badges are building up the digital twins of the children. I mean, this is unwaged labor. And I think you've talked about that at the end about the AI, that they can't do it in secret because they need us to build it for them. And so they're literally harnessing the education sectors, the healthcare sectors, the food and housing sectors into this thing so that we teach it. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just play this video and then we'll.
The students at this age, they are fun to be around. You can introduce any type of subject, topic, and they're just really eager to learn. I usually log them in with their username and password. This is very hard for them because they don't know their letters and they don't know their numbers. How do I expect for them to log in? And typing in their username and password can take between a minute to 5 minutes, just depending on the student. And it pretty much all laid back on me for me to log them in. At first, when we met the Clever team and they came and they introduced this new concept, we're crossing our fingers because it's definitely going to change our life and our kids' lives to log into their computers. Clever Badge is a new tool that our TKs are using in the classroom. They get to wear it and then they get to decorate in the back and then they scan their barcode and are easily logging into their online learning programs. I feel like this is going to be a time saver for me because I will definitely get to use those extra minutes that I have for intervention programs that I run. Even to help the students go on online learning programs. If they have any questions, I feel like I can easily help them more. When they logged in using their username and password, they weren't really excited about it. Now I feel like I've seen right away that they're so eager and excited to even log in to use their online learning programs. I really want them to enjoy school and think of it as a positive. We want our students to strive and be the best that they can.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right? Have you seen that one before?
Oh yeah, no, I've seen it before. I've seen it a
Yeah,
few
it's just
times.
so sad. I mean,
Yeah.
because the children are like the beginning, they're on the playground, they're playing together, and then they're contained in these headsets, right? They're isolated, they're interacting not in a community, but with the machine, right? And the idea of Clever is that it essentially pulls together and aggregates data across all these different learning platforms. So the kids, like these kindergartners, may have multiple different programs that they're connected into, and the data is all pulled together into one place, and that's the digital twin. When I first saw it, I didn't fully appreciate that that's what it was building. But in that charter school, it's Rocket Ship Academy Charter School, and this guy Fred Ferrer is connected to a lot of the stuff in Santa Clara County with the Pay for Success Finance. That's a charter franchise, and I think that it's on purpose. This idea of Rocket Ship, you think about the blockchain mind files, right? They're literally creating mind files on these young children, and then they've brainwashed the teachers because the teachers are reinforced that this is what it means to be a good teacher. You get all the kids signed on to get their data harvested, right? And so I don't think that woman is intentionally a hard-hearted person. I think that she's just one of these professionals who's trained into the system to perform her role, right? Which is to get all the kids logged in, right? To get that unpaid labor and to train the AI.
When also the idea that they break things on purpose in order to, come in after the fact, but the fact that, teachers are overwhelmed and they're looking for some relief. They're looking for some support. And there was even a lot of discussion, like in some of these clips that I showed about teachers assistants, teachers aides, there's a shortage and, there's this, they create the need, up front and ahead of time and it's thought out. So, I think that's important. But yeah, that's super depressing. And that's also it still blows my mind that there's not even a hint of question in a lot of people about this. It's just kind of a given, and just the power of money. So even with the schools, the schools need money or whatever, and they're just so eager to have any support. And so you won't have any critique of any, the support when it comes in.
Yeah, most of these devices are free.
Yeah,
I mean, and
exactly.
that's what it's, they're donated, right, by these grants. Hewlett Packard and, the Google Chromebooks, they're all introduced at first as free, but then it's going to be a subscription model, right? Life as ongoing subscription. That's how they do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you sent me some other stuff. I've got your map up here, the securitized sharing agreements.
Yeah, I just noticed. I don't know. Is there any way to zoom in a little bit
Uh-huh.
closer? It's
Which
okay. So on the bottom left corner is Noodle. Yeah, Noodle Partners. So one of the people was from
okay.
Noodle, and that's like one of those names that just sticks out. I'm like Noodle, and I think John Katzman is just below him in the blue dot. And so he's the CEO of Noodle, and Noodle is a partner with something called Flowpoint Education Management, which is there to the right of Noodle Partners. And if you look just above Flowpoint Education Management in the blue dot, Christopher Riccardi, he's the guy who created Edly that is going to securitize the income sharing agreements. And if you look up Christopher Riccardi, there's a Wall Street Journal article about him that describes him as he's the grandfather of collateralized debt obligations, right? And so he's the father of collateralized debt obligations that crashed. He was at Merrill Lynch, and he created the derivatives objects that crashed the global economy in real estate. And then the Wall Street Journal article is like, yeah, now he wants to do it for higher education. Just what he did to precipitate the last Great Recession is now he's going to do it with these income sharing agreements. So I made this. This is October of 2020. I guess. And if you go all the way over to the right side of the map, the other side, we're moving. Yeah. There you can see income sharing agreements and Purdue. There's Purdue. So you had the president of Purdue there, right?
Oh, yeah.
You were saying he was selling a lot of the stuff. So Purdue was the lead on the income sharing agreements. And they had this research foundation. Purdue Global is a big online learning program. They're connected with Kaplan and this VMO education. They were doing the processing of the income sharing agreements. And, at the time that I saw this initial talk, this is sort of a map that I made of a talk at ASU GSV a couple years ago. I thought, Back a Boiler, the income sharing agreement is called Back a Boiler, that this was going to be for four-year college. And this is what they would trot out as the answer to student loan debt was these, you sign up and someone will pay for your tuition, and then they'll garnish your wages once you get a job. And that's the idea. Of course, there's only going to be certain kinds of degrees that will be attractive. Probably art history will not be a degree anyone's going to want to invest in. It'll be, coding or blockchain or biotech or, what have you. But what after the lockdowns happened, I realized is that it's going to be for the reskilling. And so it wasn't strictly just for the four-year colleges, what we traditionally understand as higher education. It was it got, I think, woven into the career impact bonds that social finance was doing, the human capital. So, it's a bummer. And, the other thing about Purdue is it's also home to the sentient world simulation. Right. So we've got that. And I'm pretty sure that Melanie Swan, before she let out to go to England, that Melanie Swan was at Purdue as well, the blockchain mind file lady. So you can just blockchain your way into the cloud mind with your securitized income sharing agreement.
Yeah. So what's the sentient? What did you say? I wasn't.
Sentient world simulation. I think sentient world simulation. That's sort of like the digital twin world that's been going on for a long time with the military. A lot of times people talk about the sentient world simulation, but it's out of Purdue as well.
Okay.
So
yeah, and I guess that guy's new to that position. He's the new president. So Mung.
The new president at Purdue.
Yeah, the guy that was the clip that I showed. The president Mung. I guess he said he's new to that position. But yeah.
So I just this idea of these income sharing agreements, and then I showed a clip before when we were doing the OER about them tokenizing them, right? So they'll go on blockchain, they'll be turned into tokens, they'll be liquid assets and tradable, just like the mortgages. And I'm just like a broken record on this, but I noticed that a lot of the presentations that you shared, a lot of the clips were about not just traditional education, but like workforce development, right? This is the lifelong learning on a ledger. It wasn't just like, there was a little bit about little kids, but mostly it was reskilling adults. And so the reskilling adults looks like you taking out tokenized income sharing agreements. Oh, you're a cashier at Lowe's? Well, you got to take out a tokenized income sharing agreement so that when you do your after hours class in plumbing to get a plumbing certification, it's covered, right? And a lot of this, if you look back and think back to, it was such a big deal at some point that Starbucks was paying for college for their baristas. Only it was part of like this scammy type of stuff. It was like online schools for the skilling. It was exactly the stuff they're talking about with Lowe's, is they're just moving people around. They know that they can't totally crash everything. So they've got to keep people busy and keep people in debt or keep people attached to things so that they can manage, where they are in the economy.
Yeah. And as to me too, even just the whole certification thing is problematic because there'd be jobs where people that have the knowledge and skills for it, but they don't have the piece of paper that costs like a crazy amount of money that gives them
but now that
authority.
you can put on a VR headset, Jason, and show them in the VR, and then you can earn your badge, and then you won't need the education.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And micro credentials.
You have an answer for that. Yeah. A nano or Pico credential. Yeah.
Pico credentials.
Exactly. Do you know how to pet a dog correctly? Well, put on the VR headset. Show us that you can pet a dog correctly, and then you can get the dog walking job.
Well, and even if you look into some of the things that they offer, it is kind of ridiculous in terms of like what the actual education training programs. It's watch this video and then answer these questions or something. It's a very dumbed down version of
education. I don't think they actually think people are going to do the skill. Like here, do this welding certification in our virtual reality simulation. They're never going to let you weld. They just want you to perform that you can follow the directions, right?
Yeah.
And then get the badge. But there's the AI robot thing is going to be doing the welding. And then when you're done with that certificate, they'll say, oh, go over here and learn how to do, nutrition counseling and get that badge or whatever. And then, no, you're not doing nutrition counseling. That's an app.
we just switched it. We just switched it today.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen? There's a book, Catch 22. There's actually a really great series based on it on Hulu. But it was like that whole thing. They just keep changing the rules of the game as you go along. I mean, it's just like it keep you on the hamster wheel. Somebody asked about the actual physical systems that went forward. Are they more like an ant colony or a man-o-war or the octopus? So they're giving different metaphors. Something you can spring borax on doesn't seem to be that resilient to me. I mean, I would say the ant thing is pretty resilient when they, because you have everyone's an ant. Number. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I didn't even talk yet about the microbes. So in the Adrian Tchaikovsky book, because I'm listening to the octopus book again, towards the end, it's about this microbial colony that wants to essentially inhabit the life cycle of all of the beings and soak up all of their knowledge. And I think it might be like some sort of cyanobacteria or whatever that like incorporates the DNA of all of its host stuff into anything nearby. It just sucks it up, and it keeps this giant library archive type of thing. And so eventually the AI embodied former human tries to create a détente with the microorganism colony by saying, like, when you suck up all the life, then it stops because there's no more life. Like when essentially what it does is like an alien hijacked the brain of the thing and then filled up the brain. And then you're just kind of frozen, and you can only do backwards from there, any of the stuff, but you can't go forwards because there's no life left. It's just frozen in that moment. So she's like, let's figure out some way that we can like work together, but you don't actually absorb everything and kill it off. And they're like, okay, well, we'll try to figure that out. So, but in this microbial colony, it's like every cell holds the full identity of the archive of the being. And so it is resilient in that way. And it's funny, that section about corporate memory.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, like the microbial colony. Like if you can fragment out in some sort of holographic unit that every bit has the whole like into it, then you have this resilient thing. And it doesn't matter, you can just wipe out a bunch of them as long as it's all repeats and it all has the same information. The individual has no value.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
I
quite.
think this guy knows some stuff. This Adrian Chakowski, I think he knows some stuff.
I need to read more science fiction.
Yeah, they tell you all of the things. But so, I think, I just ended up today, I did like a 6.5 hour presentation, 6.5 hour thing. I haven't done it live. I've recorded it. I have to edit it up and stuff, but it's on these nuclear reactors and these, and I don't know. In some of it, I just kept saying, like, I need for people to take it to the next level of understanding distributed cognition and understand the cybernetic nudges as computational structures and social computational structures. Like, we need to get beyond the, like, oh, the depopulation, Klaus Schwab agenda. That's not helpful. It is something more complicated that's going on.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, and I kind of have been ranting about this lately, but like the quote unquote resistance is so caught up in its own version of the ant computer experiment, but they don't know that's what they're in. So they're running around running the ant computer of the version of the resistance model, and they don't even know, and they can't even see it because they're like the fish in the water.
Yeah, I've kind of given up. And on this, I need to like work on articulating it differently, because I keep repeating like cybernetic governance, I probably sound like a broken record too. And it's like, okay, cybernetic governance. Like, no, you don't understand like what that actually entails. Like, what does that mean to live within a system that is steering you for some predetermined outcome?
Right.
And
the
I
thing
think
is, they're going to make it not like, I think the goal is to make it tolerable. I mean, if not somewhat fun or challenging. Like, that's what the Michael Crows of the world, that's what the In-Q-Tel, the Niantic, the augmented reality is life as a game. Live action role playing with people towards some outcome, and we don't really understand the game we're in or what the rules are, and they can change arbitrarily.
right.
That's what they're building. But it's not exactly like, I know for a while I was describing it as the open air prison. And but I think that they won't want the most people to understand it as a prison. They'll want them to understand it as an exciting opportunity, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I forgot I had a thought there, but I lost it. So yeah, we have Noodle Partners up here. This is, you were talking about administrative online.
That's most it. Yeah, we don't have to go super deep, but like Riccardi, can we click on Riccardi? So he was the Flowpoint education management guy. And like, you can see his background. Former president of Institutional Financial Markets, former managing director of Merrill Lynch, and that's where he was working on the CDOs, Credit Suisse, Prudential. Prudential is a major player in the career impact bond space and the human capital space. And then going on to Edley. And there's also Play Sports, interesting AI video editing. There you go. Personalized clips of sports. So the AI will hand you your sport, the most recent hot takes of your sporting events. And let's see, Mead Holdings, finance firm focused on leverage credit investments. And Cohen and Company, Philadelphia Investment Bank, managing credit fixed income investments. Yeah, and look, Wharton, Penn. So it's always goes back to Wharton, right? And the London School of Economics. So so this guy, right? Collateralized debt obligations, like securitize your toddler. And a while back, I did that short story reading of Overvalued, right? Where there's like, man. And to me, actually that series in Wire, I think maybe it was in Slate. It was sponsored by Arizona State University, actually.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was sort of a futurist, fictional foresight predictive programming series. And it was done in like 2018. So so old Mikey Crow has known what's up for some time.
Yeah, definitely. He's a key player. And I just, the way that they're presenting the AI as being just this neutral tool that you can utilize, that you can gather information from, and
But it's
understand.
wrong.
It's not that. Yeah, it's there's
Do
a
you remember what it said about me?
yes. No, I mentioned that actually in
Oh,
the
you
talk.
did? Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't have it right in front of me, but yeah, basically it was someone had asked the Chat GPT about Allison's work. Can you summarize Allison's work for me? And it totally
Well, and I
misrepresented.
think, and then it said, if as if I were a child. So I think maybe that's what did the leading part. It was only about educational technology. It was nothing about impact finance or all of the other things I talk about. It was really limited to ed tech.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, Allison doesn't want it to be used to hurt people, but Allison would like for it to be used to make things better. And I'm like, no, that's not what I said.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It
don't say
implied that
ever.
you're actually it took the kind of the position of like the RFK Jr. position, like I'm okay with vaccines as long as they're safe, and that's not,
Yeah.
that's when it comes to this technology, that's not your position. It's you've got a pretty hard no. So yeah, it was actually, but I noticed the way it was written is actually very political. It was making a value judgment, and an inaccurate one at that. And so again, it's a binary thing anyways. So like even if it was trying to do the right thing, it's going to be limited because there's a thing in the world called paradox, and there's a lot of problems with ethics, that there are conflicts of interest and complications that I don't think that these technologies, even if we wanted to pursue them, have the capacity to deal with.
Yeah. And I think people are like anthropomorphizing it somewhat, right? They're acting like it's a thing or a person or an entity. And I'm like, it's not.
Well, there was
It's not.
the studies when I need to look it up again, but I actually learned about it from an Adam Curtis documentary series where they were the computers. You know about this, that they were psychologists, and they had the computers. People were doing therapy with the computer. This was back in like the
Oh, right,
60s,
right, right. I forget
and
what the name of it was.
the
It
computer
had a
would
name.
just say back to
What
the
the person said.
person.
Yeah.
But people were actually really getting connected to it, like it was actually having an effect on them, and they were coming out of it like, oh, that was really helpful, and all the thing was doing was just repeating back to you what you said to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. Well, and the thing is, one of the things Lynn and I talked about was early on, there was this, gosh, what was it called? It was some sort of robot thing. Genie, like the something math genie. It was like a math genie. iReason was the company, and it was a little genie chatbot for young children, like elementary school age children, help them as their math tutor. And
Hmm.
it would like be in a little chat box. And you know, it's hard because I've had circumstances where on social media people approach you in a chat or a message, and you over time feel like that person, or and then you realize later like you didn't like
Yeah, yeah.
you didn't actually. And but imagine like training these little children to uh, become accustomed to these AI agents. They're helpers, right? And then I think eventually, like the children moved on, and I don't know if the school district discontinued the program or they graduated from it, but they no longer had access, and it caused real emotional harm to the
Mm.
children because they had gotten attached to this chatbot thing. And that's a scary proposition. It's really. Oh, did you take away there was one more,
Oh no, I can bring it
the
back
one
up.
last one about the intelligent
Yeah,
computing, the ICT. So that was the last one I wanted to bring up. Can you make it a little bit bigger?
yeah.
I don't know if you can expand it at all.
I don't know if I can. I don't have
You
a
can't
tool to.
expand it.
Let me see if. Oh
Oh,
wait,
okay.
there's a zoom. Hold on here.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so this it's amazing how far back this goes. So this is the University of Southern California Institute for Creative Technologies. And we talked about this place before. It sort of came out of like the Army Research Lab, and Disney was sort of like the
Mm,
birthing of like, hey, let us use simulation technology to benefit both of us. And they were developing synthetic people. So 2008, so that's 15 years ago, right? And you see who was involved in this meeting about your intelligent lifelong learning companion. And that's going to be your iReasoning genie, only you don't graduate out of it. It stays with you your whole life. And like that woman said, you get captured, right? You
Yeah.
got captured by the thing, and it's your learner, your learning leader for your whole life. But you look and see who the leads are on this, and you've got U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command, so TRADOC, uh, Army RDE-COM Creative Learning Technologies, Army Research Institute for Behavioral and Social Sciences, Army Research Institute. Okay, so there's several from there, 3,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the USC Institute, and then a variety of other schools. But
I see Arizona
this
State
U.S.
down here.
Research Institute for Behavioral and Social Sciences, BAE Systems, right? Psychology software tools. They do not understand that what they're introducing what they're pairing children or employees up with are military high-level
Yeah.
psychology
Yeah. Yeah.
manipulation systems.
Yeah, and everybody just wants to
It's
ignore that. Like, do you realize who the people who's behind this? Like, you want to just pretend like that's not a thing, and there's not a history
Yeah,
there. There's, like,
I know. It's crazy. And then, I part of what I was talking about today, this lecture or this talk that I was sort of deconstructing, they were framing RFK Jr. as like this anti-imperialist peacekeeper because he had some page on his campaign thing about peace. And like, we can't be an empire abroad and be strong at home. So we're going to, pull back and all of this stuff. And on the one hand, yeah, like I used to consider myself anti-imperialist, but I don't think we understand what the empire is. Like the empire is kind of us all the time, even at home, even in the behavioral psychology divisions.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so you can talk about weapons, but it goes back to the stuff with Ukraine. Sure, there's stuff that's missiles and specific bombs and different things, but then there's a lot of weapons that are covert, and there's psychological weapons, and they're not just used on people outside the United States. Our government is used, anybody who knows about MK Ultra and everything, like it's been going on a really long time, only now it's totally normal and they call it your lifelong learning companion.
yeah. Well, like with me, I consider myself an environmentalist, and what then you started to go in and you started to see kind of who's behind some of these large environmental organizations and on all these markets that they're creating around there. And so it's like, oh, is your choice to see, oh, I suddenly don't care about the environment anymore because of this thing. Or like peace, we're seeing how peace is going to be used as a weapon, as a tool to bring forward these other systems. And it's like, yes, I'm for peace, but I'm also opposed to this. Yes, I care about the environment and the ecology, but I'm also opposed to these
Yeah.
programs that they're putting forward that are in the name of that. Black Lives Matter is another thing. Like, I support the general cause of, yes, the people of color have been mistreated, especially, but all people a lot of people are being mistreated by the police, and there's a serious problem with police brutality. But then you realize that the the Black Lives Matter movement was actually serving another function. It's actually, you have billions of dollars being given to this group, and that's they're not actually. Mayor Bloomberg is not,
Yeah.
he's not coming at this with a deep concern for, people of color and police brutality. So all these different issues, you can still care about the issue and recognize that it's being exploited with ulterior motives. So,
But
yeah,
like what I would say is if you're going to be an anti-imperialist, what we need to be looking at is not just missiles and directed energy weapons and whatever, but we actually need to understand that our intelligent lifelong learning companions are weapons against
yeah,
natural thinking human beings. These are weapons that are weapons against consciousness, and they're being directed. At all of us, but those little children at Rocket Ship Charter School with the stickers and their clever badges, that is a weapon. And it's not okay. And and guess what? I bet, I doubt any of those people went to Davos, right? They're all in Southern California or Georgia or Pittsburgh, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or Boston. These things are not some way out thing over there. These are weapons that are being used against all of us. And so if we want to truly understand anti-imperialism, we have to come to terms with our educational technology sector is a weapon. It
Yeah.
is a massive weapon system against people, all people.
And social
And that
media.
underlies markets.
I think
Yeah.
social media is a weapon.
Yeah. I
You
think it is
know.
too. But I mean, we're talking about educational technology in this
Right, right, right.
particular chat. So I just want to emphasize, I think that educational technology as a weapon that is being used to steer people into a global gig economy where their data will be used to train machines to try to be human and to steer us into gamified exercises that we don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions on there? I just saw the one, but I appreciate you all joining us.
Well, I would just encourage, if people haven't been following along, Lynn and I have so far 3 parts, and I recorded a 4th and I haven't put it up yet, on open education resources, which are essentially going to be, people interacting with this online digital content, including in VR and including for apprenticeships and lifelong learning. And that's all going to be woven into these impact markets. So definitely check out that playlist on our channel. And I guess I'll be pulling this the Q&A part on my channel, but if you're watching this on my channel, be sure to go back and subscribe to Jason's channel, Argus Fest YouTube. I'll have a link to that so that you can listen to like the full program, and then you'll have a whole nother person to listen to, because Jason's doing a lot of good work on this.
Well, I appreciate you joining me, because I know that this is your this is your wheelhouse. You've been working on this since long before I even met you. So it's really helpful for me to kind of talk to you after going, because I've been watching all these talks, and it's kind of tiring to go through them. Just listening to the language and the it's
well, I mean, the thing is, like, the professional, like the credentialed professional, Jason, I mean, I know you talk about that a lot, but it's got to be just, it kind of is soul sucking to sit there and watch people front this machine and normalize it and act like it's okay, and realize that like their bread and butter, their job, they're rewarded for going along, and we're all allowing something that is totally unnatural to advance on humanity.
Yeah, and they bought into it themselves. So like I don't think that they want to do harm or anything for the most part. Like, I mean, I think there are players within that field that just really don't care, and they'll lie and do whatever just to make a buck. But I think there are a lot of people even in that space who really do care about children and have bought the story.
Yeah.
And it's easier for them to get along, to function within that space. And it's also a bubble. They live inside of a bubble. And any critique, they'll every once in a while they'll give some little lip service to, some like peripheral concern that's out there. But there's never any deep dive or any it's never given any real attention. And it's also even at that, it's also, again, like not even the core of the problems with it, so it'll just be like some tokens concern. We don't want hackers to hack your data or whatever. And
we don't
really
mind if
about
we're going to throw you into a snake pit of gig economy, AI badge,
venture capitalists, hedge funds.
It's like going to be like ongoing gladiator battles to like chase down the gig economy job. It's just.
Yeah, well, it's just a matter of time before, people are fighting over their tokens, and the future looks bright.
Well, I appreciate you going through and sort of immersing yourself in all of this.
Yeah, I've got more coming out. I've got other stuff around lifelong learning, and even in this, it's like some of these talks that kind of fall into different. I'm trying to organize them a little bit into categories. So I think I covered most of the stuff I could find on AI on this one, though. Cool. Well, yeah, thank you all for joining us. And yeah, we'll have another one of these coming out soon. And thank you, Allison, for jumping on and chatting with me for a minute at the end here. So.